All right, I'd like to call the Westonka School Board meeting to order. If everybody would rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chair moves for approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements, July 13th is a regular board meeting at 6 o'clock right here. And that's our only announcement this week. Are there any members of the public that want to address the board? Not everybody at once, okay? At this point, we'll do the Cross Anderson construction report. Gary, you're up.
All right, we'll start with the stadium first. These are rendering what it's.
That was a productive week.
That's amazing.
So what we've done in May, the track demo, cut and remove trees, and a lot of the mass grading has been done. What we're continuing to do, strip topsoil, get the topsoil off the site that we don't need, do the site utility work, and install the electrical. At the buildings, one of the exciting things, we're going to start the footings for the stadium building tomorrow. So that's a good milestone for us. Let's see. Well, drone footage, that's the same as last month. He actually was out here this morning and did the drone, but I couldn't get it fast enough to get into this. But just a couple pictures of what's going on out there. Nothing too exciting. Just moving dirt. So
The weather's cool.
the weather's been great.
Fantastic.
Yep.
The truck's still going?
They're still going. They're still going when I was walking in. So again,
Soil conditions have been positive too.
Yep. So it's just been positive. Weather's been great, and then we haven't. I don't think we've lost any days yet. So we're just fine tuning the schedule. Things we're a little bit ahead. So that's good. Jump to the high school. This is a new image that we added, just a little bit more of just like site logistics and what's going on. So if you have time, you can take a look at that. But we're just trying to denote the specific dates for areas. So like the parking lot out here, now until the end of July 27th, get that back open.
We've really
So
stressed.
these are closure dates right here?
Dates for closure. Like the main parking lot on the north, that's now until August 11th. So
We've really stressed trying to keep people off the campus, and so those people using Thaler, they'll get direct communication from the programs on how to entrance. For people that are coming to this building, we have parking across the road, and they'd be walking up. And then on certain days, it's gonna work to drive up here, but really for direct communication, trying to keep up with what day you can and can't, it's best for them to come. Our fields, it's all north of Sunny Field that they're gonna be able to utilize. So really we got a lot of curious kids and community members that this is part of their walking route, and we're trying to keep people out, just as we're working on so much of the parking lot, so many utilities, et cetera, that just to avoid potential problems, particularly when work is happening. A lot of trucks, whatnot, moving around, and so that's one communication that's gone. This drive will open up the end of July again, and that'll give the WAC the ability to open up again, and so we'll start seeing more traffic end of July, and then the next milestone is fall sports, which is the middle of August. We'll see people starting to utilize the lot. So really working with KA that when we get to the middle of August, you can see that north lot in blue, August 11th turnover. We really want that to turn over then so the students have a place to park, they can walk in the front of the building, and we really have a safe way for everyone to access.
What's going on with the field 7? What's
7, 8, 9. So we're just waiting to move a fiber line this week, and then that'll begin. But they've been able to stay busy on the other field, and you'll see them starting to draw attention to that after really starting next week.
Okay.
We still feel like that's on the timeline of turning over to us about the end of September.
Okay.
And so we're hopeful that whether everything can continue that.
So
Yeah, just the logistics of the actual turf install, so we're actually gonna do the turf install at the stadium first, and then finish up at the practice fields, so.
There's just a lot more infrastructure in the stadium, obviously, than what's needed on 7, 8, 9. You have
Is landscaping gonna be done by the north entrance?
Yeah,
by
so
the
when,
time
so when
school
we,
starts?
yep, so when we open up, the plan is when we open up on the 11th, that's all done.
Okay.
'Cause we just don't want, again, once we open it up, the people don't wanna be in there, so we'll have the front all looking. Just a couple photos of what's going on at the high school. Of course, you can see the site's future parking lot here, so we're getting ready, back in the, machine shop. Some of the exhaust, that's a big exhaust for the plasma cutter. Just some more photos again of, I think we looked at this last month, but just of the admin. The gym right now, we're in the middle of it. As of today, we're halfway painted out on the gym ceiling. Gym floors, about a 5-week process. Gym equipment's another couple weeks, so we're trying to squeeze them all into the space and get us out of there in time for fall sports.
no surprises there so far.
Couple surprises, but we're battling through, just a couple things, but, with everything, something always pops up that's
Yeah.
but I think we've got it handled, so we're working through. Just had to adjust a couple contractors in their scope of work, or in their phasing. Just some more, we were over there this afternoon walking through it, just don't go over there. It's definitely torn apart, it looks a mess. And I know, I've been doing this for 25 years, and even when I walk through, I'm just like, are we sure? This is a lot of work to do, but it just feels overwhelming in the month of June when you walk through and everything's torn apart, but we're on track, everything's looking good.
Those trees are gone.
Yeah, these photos were taken I think late last week, and we're already. Just, I think there's anything.
So what you're looking in these pictures off to the left is the lower level special education classrooms and a lower level bathroom. They got access in there in April, and so that's how walls are already going up. It wasn't just demoed and walls gone up. They had earlier access to that part of the building. And then the same with the nursing area. They got in there early, and they've been going. Mechanical units, they got the old boiler all out, and now we're working on putting the new ones in. So quite a bit of activity from a mechanical standpoint, from site works around the building to the interior. And so a lot of coordination with Kraus and the contractors of these are the areas that really need to turn over for the operation of school, and a lot of attention to the schedule so that can happen.
Like the big stairwell, that's coming down this week, so that's a big.
Going up by the cafeteria?
Yeah. They come in with a robot, jackhammer, so it's safe for.
Cool.
And then Hilltop and Shirley Hills.
Yeah, Hilltop and Shirley Hills, we're off and running this week and everything's looking good. I know we've been doing a lot of coordination with the building staff over there to make sure that everything's packaged and separated so we can get in there and do the work. We're feeling pretty good. We're off to a really good start. Everything's been great.
Great.
Anything else?
When you start digging up the courtyard, is that happening this summer?
It's happening. They're in there right now shoring up some of the structural stuff, so that's gonna be happening this week or next we'll start cutting into things. It's a lot of work, so that's.
Yeah, that's a huge,
Yeah.
and that's the part that's gonna take the longest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where we'll finish.
Well, it's not something you can hurry.
Yeah, it's a lot of structure, a lot of things to be, make sure we gotta demo a lot of stuff, but keep the important structural stuff there, so. Good, all right.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Very easy.
Yeah, you too.
Ralph, we'll move on to the treasurer's report,
Yep, we
please.
begin with, Ohio File, Westonka Athletics, $31.77. W.M. Cunnington, Community Education Sponsor a Student, $500. Anonymous Community Education Sponsor a Student, $100. United Way Hilltop Primary School, $495. Minneapolis Institute of Art, Hilltop Primary School, $500. Kelly Goddard, Austin Goddard Memorial Scholarship, $50. Butch Humbert, Cross Country Scholarship, $100. Stern Family, Austin Goddard Memorial Scholarship, $100. Patrick and Tricia Struther, Austin Goddard Memorial Scholarship, $100. Alan Alma's Charter Holdings Company, Alan Alma's Scholarship, $1,500. Blackbaud Giving, Westonka High School, $55. Westonka Soccer Boosters, Westonka High School Soccer Team Uniforms, $9,264.23. Unit aid total contributions, $268,840.28. And Mr. Chair and fellow board members, I looked at the check registrar and surveyed the checks and all seems to be in good order.
Thank you, Ralph. Any committee reports from anybody? Not at this point, I guess we'll have to wait till this fall, so. And then, teaching and learning, Mark.
Yes, well, how exciting to see all this building going on, and I'm here tonight to give you 3 updates. As the buildings are being built, we are building the programs, and I'm happy to report that this last week we had a nice milestone. With the EMR EMT program, we formally submitted, it's our Office of Emergency Medical Services application. That's the big application now to get certified for the program. So we, under the hood, have done a lot of work with documentation, requirements you have to meet. Equipment is going to be coming in tomorrow, and then we'll have an inspection on June 18th. And hopefully, cross our fingers, everything is looking good. And what that's going to do is unlock that EMT grant of $79,000 that we can start spending money. So, and that means the program is certified, we're ready to go. So that's been a great thing.
And once you get certified, and that, is there certifications, other certifications down the road that you have to go through, or?
No, this is it.
This is it?
We can launch the program.
Good.
So that's a great milestone. And then the other piece that we're working on is our NAR Nursing Assistance Program, and the same thing is going on here, where with that program, different program, but that's the Department of Health, and we're working on that application. And then we're going to be entering a contract with Monarch Healthcare. So on your agenda tonight is a discussion item for an agreement between Monarch Healthcare and the school district, where they'll provide the required nurse for instruction and skills assessment and the clinical side. You have to have those 2 things to have an NAR program. So that'll be in your agenda tonight. And then the other piece will be the actual application. And that is called the Nurse Aid Training Competency Evaluation Program application. And we're working on that now. We'll submit that to the Department of Health by the end of this month. So again, once that is solidified, that will move us forward to offer the program. And I think the most exciting piece, Caitlin Peglow, she's gonna be our medical careers staff member, teacher. She begins work here in Westonka June 15th. And I'm maybe the most excited about that because I just been waiting. I was communicating with her back last fall, and she works full-time at Regents Hospital. And she finally said, Mark, we just have to take a breather until I can resign from there, and then she'll be here full-time starting June 15th, and she's ready to go.
Each one of these bullets are put up there pretty simply. You know, there's the Monarch Healthcare, the amount of back and forth and coordination of just trying to understand what are the requirements of an NAR program, and then finding a partner and making sure, because you're in new territory, that you've done this correctly. I just want to compliment Mark. There was a lot of back and forth, verifying with our attorneys to make sure that what we're setting up is truly in the best interest of our district. There was a lot of contact with also, if it would be Lake Minnetonka Shores or Harrison Bay, about if they want any type of relationship with our programs. And so a lot of reach out and repeating those reach outs to see who's interested in partnering with us. I think the development of the program, just a lot of coordination. And then with Caitlin, Caitlin used to be a trainer here in the district, and so she's familiar with this area. She is going to do part of her time as a trainer, and that allows us to have a full-time person, because we don't right now at the beginning have enough classes to fill that full-time. But we had a very impressive enrollment into this right off the chute. So I think there's a lot of excitement for our students on this program, but it just really worked out nice of how we could create a full-time position that had really great value to us. With our training, we have to go beyond just Caitlin, and so we're working with how our partners can make sure we got coverage for our other programs. And so it's all neatly on one slide, a lot of back and forth and scratching the head and just kind of moving forward, and Mark is really to be complimented on this.
What I would,
Caitlin is a parent too, right?
no, she's not.
No, okay.
She's high energy though.
Is, does a Monarch, I assume that they're in agreement with other school districts on similar programs?
Yeah, it's you know, something to add to what Kevin was sharing about Monarch. So when we talk about them providing the required nurse and the clinical site, that's at no cost to the district. That's a cost to them, no cost. Of course, what they're hoping for is to develop new employees. And of course, they'll be very interested in our students possibly working in their sites in Delano and Excelsior. But I also want to emphasize, we still have good relationships with Presbyterian Home, Harrison Bay. Those doors are open. When they want us and they have need, we'll be promoting those openings also in those facilities. It just turned out that Monarch is a place where this is a program they offer in different high schools around the state. And so it's a win-win.
Do you know how long they've been offering that to other high schools? Mark?
Well, I know they've been offering for at least 4 or 5 years.
So obviously, it must be working for them, or they wouldn't keep doing it, it would seem.
Yeah, I think so. However the finances work, they make that work with that. So before I move on to the last point, in the consent agenda will be the application for the EMR EMT program. And then in your other part of your agenda will be the discussion item for this agreement with Monarch Healthcare. So really some great developments as this continues to implement and keep building these programs. The last piece that I wanted to share with you tonight is a little bit more detail about the Youth Skills Training Grant. And the Youth Skills Training Program grant, it really is a mechanism to connect businesses, vocational businesses, with high schools. So we're gonna be in this partnership with this program with a machining program and also with our nursing assistance program. And really, it's about building relationships, partnerships. It's giving students industry exposure to these career paths. And then what we all hope is that for some students, this becomes their career path. And the amazing thing about this, once we now sign off on the paperwork, this is gonna be about $99,000 in grant money over 2 years for us.
That's awesome.
So it's a big deal. And again, it shores up, it complements these programs that we're building. And if there's anything that we've learned, there are partners out there in our state, in our different agencies, where they want us to succeed, they want to support us in these programs. So I think it's gonna be an exciting year next year as these things go forward. So that is all going on this summer and in this month of June. And I just wanna add, there's a last minute agenda item, the first reading of our AI policy, and that's policy 6250, responsible use of artificial intelligence. So of course, that is another effort that we're working on, that we do this well, we do this in a very thoughtful, pragmatic way with implementation. So in front of you will be the first reading, and what you have in front of you will be a policy that is modeled from MSBA. And we've tweaked it a little bit, but it is the MSBA policy that we'll be using as the solid foundation that we'll need next year as we go forward with AI. So that would be my report here today.
Thank you. Move on to the financial report, Kathy.
Mark's keeping me busy with all these grants. I just told him it's a good thing we get along so well.
She going, oh no, not another big chair.
Yes. Good evening, board. Tonight we will be reviewing the fiscal year 26-27 adopted budget. But before we do that, I would like to just quickly look at our traditional monthly financial reports as we do each board meeting through May 31st, 2026. We have received 35,787,000 or 79.7% of the yellow revised budget. We have expended 36,632,000 or 82.3% of our yellow revised budget. And as we enter our last month of the fiscal year, we feel really good about how this is pacing, both expenditures and revenues as we close out the 25-26 fiscal year. And again, I won't be touching on enrollment because we'll give final numbers as those numbers are cleansed with the state. All right, again, we'll be highlighting the just the high points of our proposed 26-27 adopted budget. School Board Finance Committee met last Thursday, June 4th, to discuss the budget in greater detail. And I would like to thank board members Brian Carlson, Pastor Lauren Davis, Ralph Harrison, and Superintendent Borg as well for their time and commitment to the Finance Committee this school year. As we go through the presentation, if you have questions, feel free to stop me, or we'll have time at the end as well. All right, enrollment is the foundation of all school budgets. Almost every source of our revenue is tied to how many students we serve. This chart gives a 5-year review of our enrollment trends and then also what we are estimating for the upcoming school year. Our district has benefited from stable enrollment. After considering our projected kindergarten enrollment, our typical migration patterns, and the size of our most recent graduating class, we're projecting just a slight conservative decrease in our enrollment this fall. We will continue to monitor this enrollment all through the summer months, and if there's any significant changes, we will incorporate that into our revised budget this winter accordingly. All right, all school districts have to have a budget approved by July 1st, and so the adopted budget that we always approve in June is based on really heavy assumptions. And this slide gives a recap of those assumptions that we came up with. Again, our enrollment we are planning on at this point is 2,429 students. The state of Minnesota recognizes that high school kids, it's more costly to educate them, so they are weighted at 1.2. And so our weighted count in this budget is 2,655, and again, this particular school year, we are planning this fall on 160 kindergartners, which equates to a loss of 18 students over last year, since we had a larger graduating class of over 190. Our largest source of revenue is our general education formula aid. We receive, not we, just school districts across the state receive an increase from the state based on a flat amount of 2%, and then there's an inflation factor. So all schools were awarded an increase of 2.69% over the prior year. So that went from 7,481 to 7,683 per weighted student. In this budget, the other categorical categories that we estimated also that same 2.69. We know from our levy that we will be including additional capital projects levy of just those dollars of just over 50,000. Also in this budget, one of our larger sources of revenue, which we are incredibly grateful for, is our two-step operating referendum, which also has an inflation factor. This year, we will be receiving 6 additional percentage points for cross-subsidy special education aid. In the 2023 legislative session, there was additional support given the last 2 years. We were paid at 44% of the cross-subsidy aid, and next year that increase will be 50% or half of what it of the cross-subsidy aid. We have just a slight gain of compensatory revenue, which is tied to our free and reduced counts. It seems like our federal revenue is shrinking as far as title and different categories, so we are budgeting for a little bit less title revenue. And in this budget, we also show a draw of our OPEB funds to cover those obligations for retiree contracts. As far as our expenditures, our teacher groups are settled, and those are incorporated at what the board has approved. We have 3 retirements, and we have estimates for the groups that have not yet settled. We always put in contingency for staff lane changes and additions that we may need. The largest change in our personnel benefit was our health insurance. There was more support needed there to keep our internal service fund healthy, but thankfully our dental, also our life insurance, did not have any increases for the upcoming year. Outside of salary and benefits, everything else in this budget we applied 3% increase. All right, this next slide gives a recap of just general fund and where we receive our money from. It just gives you a quick glimpse of our adopted budget on the right, and on the left is our revised budget. So it, again, revised compared to the adopted. And you can see the primary source of revenue in both years, roughly 63% comes from the state of Minnesota. We're very dependent upon the state. Our property taxes make up about 30%, and the rest is made up by federal and local receipts. This slide gives you an overview by program of our adopted general fund budget. Again, just a little over 46 million. When I look at this, I'm very proud of Westonka doing a fantastic job of spending the majority of our dollars directly in the classroom as possible, benefiting students. Areas like regular instruction, special education, instructional support, and pupil support services. This next slide gives a recap showing the anticipated fund balance at the end of the 26-27 school year, and also the prior year history of our unassigned and assigned fund balance. In the adopted budget, we are planning on just a very slight gain of $32,000 over the prior revised budget. In the adopted budget, we are projecting an unassigned assigned fund balance of $7,165,000 or 15.54% of the general fund. Again, you can see over the prior years, we hover between 14 and 16+%, which aligns very closely to our board policy of 8 to 18%. We monitor this fund balance closely with our finance committee, our district long-term financial planning software, and that forecasting is very important to our committee, our district, and our department. The next 7 slides I will go through will recap the other smaller funds. Actually, I shouldn't say smaller because we have construction in here. That's not small. And so I'll go through just a real large overview of the funds. Food service. Food service is, once again, anticipating a spend down and an intentional use of their fund balance to spend on equipment and their facility spaces for next year. They're doing an exceptional job, even serving meals this summer, and they're looking forward to the new spaces at the high school.
Kathy, is there, like on food services, is there a certain amount they're allowed to carry and then you have to start spending it? Is there
Yes.
guidelines to that?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. There used to be a rule of thumb that they wanted you to have no more than 3 months operating. So if your annual budget was 1.2 million, they wanted you to have 300,000. And then there was quite a bit of funding and support during COVID because of all the meals going home. And so they loosened up on that and they said you can have 6 months, but I think it's next year they want you to bring it back down. So the timing of our building project and spending some dollars on equipment it's perfect. And so we will try to stick around that 3-month operating budget, or fund balance, I should say. Great question. All right, community education. Programs in this fund are Adventure Club, after school enrichment, summer enrichment, adult programs, our Westonka Activity Center, early childhood programs, adult basic ed, early childhood family ed, and preschool, just to name a few. Our community ed department is continuing to grow. Their mission is always to offer exceptional program, at the same time continuing since COVID to rebuild their fund balance. They've done a great job of just inching that up each year. Building construction. This shows the building construction fund expenditures as well as the revenue that we are expecting for next school year. The revenue obviously is only interest since our bond sales are all complete, so we are expecting $725,000 of interest earnings this year, and the expenses that we will be spending this year are estimated at this point, or at this time, of $28.5 million. Again, going back to the construction is big enough and it's been phased over several years, and we also tied our bonds to that, only accessing the money. So the bond sales, having 2 bond sales was really great access or saving of spending unnecessary interest earnings. The fund balance of $41 million does include that second sale, so those funds are there waiting, and they just came in February. Debt service. Debt service is where we make our principal and interest payments for our bonds. We have 2 sets of refinance bonds, which has been great. We keep an eye on that every year if we have the opportunity to refinance. Those were our 2012 bonds, our 2016 bonds were refinanced. This also, these payments include our abatement bonds from 2018, and then our two most recent bond sales, the first phase and the second phase. trust fund, this tracks the activity of our scholarships for the district. This spring, the high school awarded 87 students $430,000 worth of scholarships, and you can see that our budget is just a little over 100. So that represents only the scholarships that we manage. So it's about a quarter of the scholarships we manage here, and then others are given directly or through a foundation. And so again, we are just fiscal agents, and again, we those are always my favorite checks to issue every year. Internal Service Fund is where we house our medical and dental and activity. And when in our projections, we were showing that we were needing more support to keep the balance healthy. So we are worked closely with our advisor as well as our employee benefit committee to increase the medical by 14%, and again, dental is at 0. We watch, again, these statistics very carefully, and we meet monthly with our employee benefit group. All right, last fund, OPEB, which stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. Many, many years ago, legislation granted school districts the opportunity to finance their liabilities through a bond. Westonka took advantage of this in 2009. Those bonds were paid off in 2019. Even though the bonds are paid off, the fund balance reserves are set aside for future obligations. So that's a great support to our general fund to make those payments. All right, I realize this is small, and that concludes the review of the adopted budget. This slide is a one-page review of the entire budget, the estimated beginning fund balances, the revenues, the expenditures, the ending fund balance, and the net change. This was in your board packet, and for the public, this also is on our district website. Thank you to Emily for posting that for me. Later on your agenda, there'll be an action item for the budget. And keep in mind, this budget will be revised this winter when we have a better indication of how the legislature will affect next year, when our staffing is final, when we know how many students we'll have this fall. And I look forward to coming back in this winter to give an update. And I always tell Kevin, I hope I'm too conservative. And so at this time, I would like to ask Kevin, do you have any comments that you'd like to make in addition to that?
I think Kathy's done such a nice job over a long period of time with preparing the budget. I've appreciated how there's almost a rhythm to it where there's just a lot of trust and confidence, and that we're not just granted, there's a lot of hard work that you and your team put into this year after year that gives that confidence, so thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the board members here?
One on OPEB. Now, those dollars that are there, is there a time period that'll go till and then it'll sunset? I mean, will be gone, or is that something, how long do you foresee that going?
You know, it kind of depends on interest rates. There's not a hard stop of, we have to close it within 5 years. So as long as the funds are there, and we hope that it'll be metered slowly and the interest rates will be successful, the investments are strong that we have, and so again, that it just depends on interest. So it's forecasted to be around for a while, but again, there's just too many variables on when people retire or what interest rates might be. But again, we took this out in 2009, so has a long history.
I remember when we did
Yeah.
it, that was one of the best things we did.
Yeah, it's been very nice. So, any other questions?
I just had a question on enrollment numbers. So we gained 40 from last year to this year. What was that more in upper grades or lower grades? Do you know?
Kindergarten was our big gain,
Okay.
but we did gain throughout the grades.
Okay.
One thing that we noticed this year that broke trend is the number of kindergartners that had the option of going to school and chose to hold back 1 year. That number, as it wasn't large, probably threw us off what our estimated average is. And there's other factors too, but that one in itself was one that was probably close to 10th. And that's where, we also last year gained a lot of students in August above what our trend is, and that could happen again. And so it's really, as we see it right now, that we enter into this. I think we're gonna find that our kindergarten, right now, we would project the next year's kindergarten number to hit that number that we have with our demographic study. So we're about 20-some students above it. Now, right now, we're projected to be about 10 students below it. I think next year we'll be above it again.
I have a question. You had, the slide you had on the estimate for revenue sources, you had like what, like these 7 categories in there? As I understand it then, yeah, go back there. No, it was the one prior to that, where you're doing you're doing your budget estimate for June.
Like the overview slide you saw.
And then you,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. All of those revenue sources at this point are educated estimates, basically, on past practice, or whatever you've done in the past, right? None of those at this point is a hard, fast projection for any source. Is that correct?
The only thing that's hard for next year is the levy, because we have to do that ahead of time. Most everything else is kind of hinged on how many students we serve. But the levy, we do know that.
Okay.
But the 2.69%, that's hard. I mean,
Yeah, we know what
it's just we just don't know how many students it is.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that one, the increase in general education funding, 2.69, that shouldn't change to the one, but anything under that, right? Those are, can you point out anything that would be other than an estimate, other than that first line item, 2.69?
The federal is an estimate. We really don't receive our final federal
Right.
till, after the holidays.
That's the federal title revenue.
Correct, yep,
Right.
yep. And
Well,
so,
we did talk about a little bit, one outlier in this might be the subsidy, cross-subsidy for the educational aid if the legislature puts a foot on it.
We've spoken about this a couple times. Right now, they've increased our cross subsidy to 50%, and that will be true. With what we're concerned about is the discussion at the state with the Blue Ribbon Work Group of trying to target 300 million. There's just over 400 school districts, so 300 million is a big dollar amount for them to tackle. And we look at how could that impact schools. And so that's something on our radar that won't impact this budget. It will be the following year budget. And I think they're expected to have kind of their recommendations in this coming fall. And then that year's legislature would have to take action, whether they do or not. That would be up.
So the deadline for when you have your final fixed budget on there, and these are, with the majority are, like you say, an educated revenue estimate, right? Do you have a methodology then, just for my own edification, that you go through and say, okay, loss of federal title revenue, 22,778. On this date, I should have a figure for that, check 1. Second one, added subsidy, federal special education, check 2. That kind of thing. As you get close to your budget, you do line item checkoffs for all these things to see if they match or don't match, basically.
Absolutely.
And
I've
I
got more
suppose-
spreadsheets.
You know what?
And I suppose it's scattered, is it scattered all the way through the year then? You never know, or do they give you
They're all
a kind of a
different, yeah.
fixed date?
Yep, but you do it enough times, when the different deadlines come in, but no, I've got spreadsheets upon spreadsheets that.
When I joke with Kathy that she was off by 1 student the previous year and there's room for improvement, there really isn't much room for improvement at all.
You give her the
She has-
tisk and.
She has spreadsheets for spreadsheets on what she's tracking, and it's well organized.
Well, and that's also why we do a revised budget in
Right.
February, because
Right.
this is changing. It's very fluid, especially with number of students, right?
I was just curious to see how, like say you have what, 9 or 7 or 9 of those things that you have to really, and they all must come in at different dates if I understand it correctly.
They do, yeah, levies are
And
different than state aid.
Do they change from year to year, or is it pretty much steady as far as any line item coming up with an answer by a certain date at a certain time?
It's usually relatively predictable,
Okay.
so.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go on to superintendent's report, Kevin.
The big thing I would comment on is we had a wonderful graduation. We were able to be outside. One thing that we put time and planning in is if we were indoors, we were gonna hold it in the activities center, which is gonna be would have been a completely different configuration. We would have had to run tickets. We had had overflow in the performing arts. We're trying to pay attention to how we're navigating the construction with that. And to have it outdoors was just wonderful news because everyone could bring who they wanted. As it was sunny and warm, it was a beautiful night for graduation. And so we were really pleased that weather cooperated. There was a lot to celebrate in this graduating class. And the high school did a phenomenal job of a really thoughtful, efficient graduation. You graduate about 200 students in about an hour, and the highlight are the students and their speeches, and it's the students and their music, and it's the students receiving their diploma. And so there's just great focus on this being student-based, which is what it should be. And I just want to say thanks to the high school staff. A lot of staff show up for the graduation and coordinate from everything of helping students with their speeches to making that just a really beautiful night. And so that was great. As soon as the students were out of the building, the demo guys were going as fast as they could. And Jolene mentioned something I thought was funny. She said they're like a bunch of those cartoon characters. They come in and they're demoing and they're going. And it's just wonderful because that needs to happen so you can take the next steps. And as we were commenting with Gary, you know, there's a lot of plans, and you get into an old building and there's things that you discover that needs different solutions. And so really thankful for our team of just working